Near the end of the 19th century, Nietzsche proposed that when you die, you'll immediately be reborn back in the same place and time where you started. Then everything you felt, said, and did, will return, the same way it was the first time around. So you relive every minute of each day, but you're no longer free to alter your destiny, or even the smallest detail of what happens. The life is still yours. But from now on, you're only along for the ride. And since the recurrence is eternal, the ride repeats endlessly. Next, Nietzsche converted his idea from a whimsical thought experiment into a disturbing and significant element of contemporary philosophy. He cast the eternal return as an ethical imperative. In this real existence we are actually living, and while we're free to choose our own destiny, we ought to act as though the eternal return were real. Always do, he affirmed, what you would, if you were going to repeat your life infinitely, without another chance to change anything. With the eternal return defined, the question that probes most deeply into what the theory means, is, what does an eternal return life look like? There are as many responses as there are people who read Nietzsche. But one uncomfortable possibility comes from Amazonas, a jungle state in Brazil, far away from the beaches and major cities.
It involves a TV personality who's under investigation for alleged connections to several murders, all in order to boost his show's ratings.
As the hard-hitting frontman for the popular TV show Canal Libre, Sousa and his crew landed scoop after scoop, arriving on scene first even before police, capturing exclusive and graphic video of violent crimes, sometimes as they happened. But in a wild twist, Brazilian authorities now say Sousa's uncanny ability to sniff out crime wasn't because he was such a great reporter. It was because he was the one arranging the violent acts.
Actually, that's the least of it. Sousa's career began decades earlier, as a police officer. That job came to an end in a volley of cross-accusations when Sousa himself became a leading suspect in a highly publicized case that he was investigating. Capitalizing on both the confusion and the notoriety, Sousa initiated his own investigative television program. Violence and crime centered the episodes, and his graphic reports, along with his zero-tolerance attitude, won a following. Eventually the program converted into a crusade against cocaine smuggling and violence. The project resonated deeply in the zone, a remote place where drug trafficking threatened to overwhelm civil society. Next, Sousa converted his vigilante popularity into a campaign for state legislature. These are glimpses from one of his ads. At his peak, he was winning elections with more votes than any candidate in the state. And he was, possibly, the most respected leader in far western Brazil.
People used to see him as the city sheriff, since mayors, governors, and police representatives did not manage to fix the city's problems. People believed in him and had trust in him, as if he were a savior.
Everything began falling apart, however, when a suspect in one of the arrests that Sousa captured on film spilled an interesting story to the state prosecutor. Truth, like trust, is in short supply in the world Sousa reported from. In general, though, these are the facts that eventually surfaced. Wallace Souza was an ex-police officer. Sousa was a television vigilante, decrying cocaine smuggling and violence. Sousa was a popular and crusading state legislator, leading the civil and legal offensive against the scourge of drugs and crime. Sousa was a powerful drug lord. By the end, he dominated the regional cocaine market by controlling the illicit trading routes joining Bolivia, Peru and Colombia, all through western Brazil. Completely under the radar, he'd become one of the world's significant movers and dealers. In any line of work where the hours are flexible, where the money comes fast, and where little formal education is required, there are going to be independent operators trying to invade the market. To deal with them, Sousa assembled a band of hardened mercenaries. The task was simple and blunt. Eliminate the competition. As a few of these contracted enforcers worked for the police department, some elimination occurred through arrests. Other and more difficult cases were managed with assassination. Whether the end came in handcuffs, or with bullets, there was a single requirement: The enforcers always alerted Sousa of the impending actions, so that he, and his cameras, could be on the scene. The shocking and exclusive footage powered the television program. And the high ratings created a shield of popular support that held out for decades. The success further provided a secondary income, which plausibly explained all the money that flowed to support Sousa's opulent lifestyle. After his arrest, Sousa suffered only a very brief incarceration. The autopsy showed that the life-ending heart attack would have come at about that time, regardless of the circumstances. Here are 5 sets of connections between Sousa and the eternal return. Wallace Souza's was an eternal return kind of life. It's just important to note that he doesn't receive Nietzsche's sanction because he was an amoral drug runner. That has nothing to do with it. Instead, what Sousa offers is the possibility of high adrenaline existence. Everything he did, from police officer, to television celebrity, to crusading politics, to cocaine smuggling, fueled the exuberance. So, if you're faced with the fate of repeating existence eternally, and if you find the adrenaline lifestyle compelling, then Sousa may be the right model. On the other hand, if constant adrenaline rushing seems frivolous, pointless, or childish in your eyes, then you will have to find a different reference. For Nietzsche, there are no wrong places to search. What must be found, though, is the kind of existence you can embrace as repeatable. The virtue of Sousa, in other words, is not the specific life he produced, it's that he produced a life he could want to repeat. One key to Nietzsche's ethics is that an existence, regardless of the kind chosen, must be its own reward. In the eternal return, there's no afterlife in the sense of a judgment that compensates, or penalizes, for what we've done. There's only repetition. Which means the reward of every decision is that decision again. Nothing more, and nothing less. Articulated negatively, there's no escape from your own life. Which is why Nietzsche labeled this element of his ethics, the greatest weight. One consequence of the eternal return is authenticity. On the slope of endless recurrence, individuals approach who they are, inevitably and asymptotically. There remains the ontological debate between being and becoming, the dispute about whether people become who they are, or are who they become. But either way, the prospect of repetition forces me to be true to myself, instead of others. There's no way around it, since I alone return, my life will always lead back to who I am, and to no one else. Another key to the eternal return is that destruction exists in the name of creativity. In the midst of Sousa's violence, he's not primarily trying to disobey rules, he's not against laws or society. Instead, Sousa broke regulations and social expectations only because he was generating new ones. So there is destruction, but only as an effect of Sousa creating values fitted to his own existence. The broad drawback to the eternal return is that it offers little to help us live together. Traditionally, ethical proposals have advocated that individuals step outside themselves and evaluate their existences as one among others. This objectivity encourages tolerance and sometimes empathy. The eternal return, however, drives your existence in the opposite direction, deeper into your own reality. Nietzsche is not a group project because you, and you alone, repeat. There are others in the circling existence. But none will be able to take your place, or relieve you. Even temporarily. It's this endless solitude that makes it difficult, though not impossible, to live empathetically with others, when you're inside the eternal return.